Welcome everyone. My name is Steve Borkenhagen. I'm the Executive Director of Urban Confluence Silicon Valley, the design competition of the San Jose Light Tower Corporation. As you can see on the screen, today is Thursday, April 23rd, and this is a webinar to talk to you about the extension that we've made to the deadline for submitting and for me to answer any questions that all of you might have. So soon we'll be going into a chat mode that will allow you to send questions. So our organization started about 3 years ago. I was one of the founders along with John Ball and Tom Woolmett. Tom moved out of the area, but John Ball and I are still working on our competition. So our new deadline is July 1st of this year. We extended it from April 3rd until July 1st to accommodate all of you, the creative community. When the COVID crisis hit, we got a huge number of communications from people asking us to give more time because of the strange situation we're all in, and we decided to do that. So you've got plenty of time. Even if you have not begun to do a submission yet, you really will have no trouble getting it done. As I'm going to show you in a few minutes, it is not extremely complicated to do a submission. What it requires is a great idea. Notice on this slide, this is an open ideas competition. You are not required to create a plan set like an architect would have to do to build a building. It's a grand idea. After we have selected 3 finalists in phase 1, that choice will be done by a world-class jury of somewhere between 12 and 15 people. It may change slightly over time because of people's schedules. Currently, we have the jury scheduled in early August. Again, the submission deadline is July 1st. And once we've chosen the 3 finalists, each of you 3 finalists will get $150,000 stipend, and that'll be used to refine your idea in phase 2. Then the jury will reconvene, pick a winner, and in phase 3, the winning designer will work with a design build team to completely design this landmark for San Jose and Silicon Valley. So where are we as far as the competition is concerned? We are very financially stable. We've got a huge group of wealthy donors and average people who support us. We will be doing more fundraising this year and into the future. We are totally confident that we can raise the money to build something spectacular. So the key right now, and the reason we're doing this competition, is to come up with the design for the most spectacular new urban icon in the world. We've had a huge uptick in high quality submissions over the past month. We fully expect to get many, many more submittals. I'm constantly communicating with possible submitters. Something to remind you of is I'm here. You can call me. My phone number is on our website. I'm here to answer your questions. Please don't be intimidated by any of the requirements. As I'm going to show you in a few minutes, it is not difficult to make a submission. It just requires a great idea. We have a fabulous jury that we're confident will make really good choices of both the 3 finalists and the winner. Community support exists and has existed from the beginning and only grows over time. And this is a perfect time where we've given you 3 extra months to perfect your idea. So something that I'm just announcing right now, and this will be posted on our website soon, is that we offer a quality control assessment of your submissions as long as you submit by June 22nd. The point of this is that some people are a bit intimidated by the various rules and the things that we do want and we don't want in submissions. So to lower the temperature, we will look at your submission when you make it, as long as you do it by June 22nd, and we'll immediately communicate with you, and we'll tell you you might have some kind of a typo, or you might have violated the anonymity requirement, which I will review later. It's really important that all of the submissions are anonymous. We do not want some kind of an experienced, big name architect to have an advantage over a college student or a high school student or some citizen with a great idea. So anonymity is important, and that will be explained. So we'll make sure that you don't have any technical violations, and we'll get back to you shortly after you submit, as long as you do it by June 22nd, because you need to give us enough time to do that. And again, we'll only be checking for technical violations. This will not be a comment on your idea, whether it's a great idea or we don't think it's a great idea. It'll only be on technical aspects. So here's some information about the competition. It's digital. Do not send us hard copies. It's all done in the submittable platform, which we will review momentarily. Your narrative must be in English. The submission must not include any identification marks, such as personal, company, or institutional names, logos, etc. So don't identify yourself except in certain fields, like the one that has your name or your email address or your brief bio. Just to be clear, I've gotten a number of questions about this. Those fields that do identify you will not be shared with the jury. So the jury will only see the various parts of the submission that do not include your name, and I'll make that clear again later. Late submissions will not be accepted. You must take the deadline seriously. You can submit as many times as you like, but you can only do one with each email address. And of course, keep a copy of your submission in case some technical glitch took place. But we've had no technical glitches yet, and we don't expect to have any. So how do you submit? You go on our website and you, in fact, I'll show you that now. Just a moment. So this is the Urban Confluence Silicon Valley website. Right here it says register to submit. All you do is hit register to submit, type in your email address, and that's all there is to it. So registering is extremely simple. So after you've registered to submit, there are various things that you need to do, and they're all clearly outlined when you read our competition brief. But you'll see, again, going back to our website, under competition, the section is called resources for submitters. So these are lots of resources that will really help you with your submission. You can learn about our city, you can learn about Silicon Valley, you can learn about the site, but there are some required resources for submitters. This includes site maps, a lighting report, and a biology report, and some information about aviation considerations because our site is in the flight path of San Jose Mineta Airport. So one of the steps you need to go through is to check out the resources for submitters. So I'm now going to walk you through doing a submission. So after you get on Submittable and you register to submit, it's going to take you to this page. And I'm going to move through it relatively quickly, so please don't be intimidated by it. It's extremely simple. As I said earlier, these fields including submitter name, submitter title, submitter email address, submitter phone number, submitter bio, those will not be shared with either the community competition panel, which is a group that will look at all of the submissions and then recommend 50 to the jury, or to the jury themselves. That is, they will not see this, so it will be completely anonymous. So you might ask, well, how are my boards labeled so that we in the competition keep track of them? In the upper right-hand corner of the design presentation board, there are squares that you end up leaving blank. We will assign you a number, and that number will be put in the board. So everything, again, will be anonymous. So here's what's required in order to do a submission. Phase 1, revise submission requirements. So first, you need to create a design presentation board. You can read this on your own later, but this design presentation board file must be named designpresentationboard.pdf. Very clear. So as you go down here on this page, it's going to ask to choose your file. So once you've done a design, it's as simple as what I just did. So here's a PDF, which is the correct format for this. And this PDF represents my design presentation board. Next thing you do is you upload the project statement. The name must be projectstatement.doc. Then you upload project summary. The name must be projectsummary.doc. And then we have a voluntary video rendering, which must contain the words video rendering in the file name. And again, you choose the file. It's called video rendering. You can, as long as it can have other words in it in your case, but it must include the words video rendering. And then you would upload the sitemap image. And the way this sitemap image works is that when you're ready to do your submission, you download the sitemap. So first you download it here, and then you upload it after you include your presentation, your idea on that sitemap. I've had a lot of questions about this sitemap, and the sitemap can be as detailed or as simple as you choose. Some people want to put lots and lots of detail into their sitemap. Other people want to put minimal detail, and either one of those is completely acceptable. Just a reminder again, if when you're doing all of this, you're at all confused, just pick up the phone. Don't spend hours struggling with this. You know, obviously we've been working on it for a long time, so it's second nature to us at this point. So I am now going to open the chat function so that we can have a conversation. But I am struggling with my Zoom ability right at this moment, forgive me, so that we can open the chat window and you can begin to send us questions.
Hey everyone, this is Michael Huber with Urban Confluence. Please submit your questions in the Q&A section of this Zoom webinar, either there or in the chat section, and we'll respond to them in the order that they are received. Thank you.
So as soon as I'm ready, here we go. In the Q&A section, all of you please send questions and I will answer them. I do want to reiterate the most important aspect of our competition is that we're looking for a grand idea. Again, I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. Please do not feel like you need something that would resemble an architect's plan set in order to submit to our competition. We're looking for an inspiration. I want you to think of what it would be like to be a juror and what you would be looking at and what would inspire you to be impressed with a particular design, as opposed to thinking that an immense amount of detail is what we're looking for. It is not. Activation of the site is actually an important part of what we're looking to do. We're leaving it up to you in phase one how much detail of activation you'd like to put. If you want to have cafes, bars, restaurants, museums, other things, you are certainly welcome to do that, but we're not demanding lots of detail. That will largely be fleshed out in phase two. Are there any material exclusions to consider is a question from one of the participants today. Generally, no, but when you read the aviation considerations, and in the lighting section, it talks about being careful about reflective surfaces. Imagine if you're a pilot in a plane, our site is only 2 or 3 miles from the airport. Planes pass over at a couple of thousand feet. So when they pass over the site, you certainly wouldn't want to have something that would blind a pilot. It also is mentioned in the aviation considerations that you don't want a design that looks like an airport runway. So if you could visualize what that would be like, you also don't want to do that. These few material issues are mentioned in those required resources for submitters. So if you go read them, I think it'll be very clear to you what is and is not allowed. So when you do go on to Submittable, before you actually do your submission, this is the landing page that we're looking at right now. The submission deadline is July 1st. San Jose Light Tower Corporation announces the launch of the competition. We invite artists, architects, urban planners, landscape architects, students, designers, engineers, and anyone with a passion for placemaking to submit ideas. So again, we're not limiting it to highly experienced architects or artists. So really anyone is welcome to submit. Question from another participant today. If I am not a finalist, is it possible that the work I have submitted can be incorporated into the site by working with a finalist? That's really a good question. And the answer is possibly yes. But if we end up doing that, in a sense, you would become a finalist too. So what we would like to make clear is that if that were going to happen, if the jury decided that 2 or 3 submittals logically work together, we would have to get the permission of all 3 of you in order to do that. So you would be part of that discussion. We would not simply take your intellectual property and use it. There would be a contract established in phase 2 that clearly established the relationship between the various submitters who all had valuable ideas and things that could work together. Another question, there must be many ideas that are similar. Will the earlier submitted ideas get to be accepted as opposed to the ones later? Excuse me. I think the likelihood that we would have things so similar that the date of submission became relevant is pretty unlikely. We have received about 140 submissions to date, and we have thousands of interested parties who are considering submitting. So I don't think that would happen. If it did happen, we have a very experienced, smart group of jurors, and they would have to decide how to do that. And what that might look like, I really can't guess at this point. But having looked at the submission so far, I can tell you that there are no 2 submittals that are so similar that this issue would come up. What is the residential community like nearby? The site, which I didn't talk about much earlier, was chosen because it's got lots of really great aspects to it. Number one, it's right across the street from SAP Center, which is where the San Jose Sharks play, and there are hundreds of concerts every year. It's less than a block from the Bay Area Rapid Transit BART station that's going to be built. Diridon Station's a block away, and this will be one of the busiest multimodal transportation terminals in the United States when it's complete in the next 5 or 10 years. The Google Urban Village is right across the street. So Google is building what I think is the largest development they've ever done in their history. I want to say it approaches 100 acres. 25 or 30,000 employees will be there. They've been working on it for a few years. The point I'm making is that much of the area around the site is being redeveloped, and there'll be probably tens of thousands of residential units not too far away. Currently, the residential community nearby is only a very small number of houses, some of which will stay, some of which will be torn down and redeveloped. And then slightly farther away, let's say between a half a mile and a mile, there are some healthy, nice, older neighborhoods of really nice houses from somewhere between, let's say, 1880 and 1940 or 1950. but the residential density is going to increase dramatically in the next decade. Can we propose multiple pieces within the site that relate to each other? Are you looking for a singular piece in a singular location? Excellent question. Any of those options is acceptable. Some submissions will be one very, very large item, as I think those of you who've read know that 200 feet is the approximate maximum. We're asking you to use 200 feet as the height limit for purposes of the competition, even though the site can handle things just a few feet higher than that. We wanted to simplify it for you. If you wanted a whole series of structures or sculptures, that's acceptable. Landscape design is acceptable. Water design is acceptable. Bridges are acceptable. It is acceptable to have something that spans from Arena Green west to east or east to west, depending on how you look at it. And you can have your design include as many pieces as you like. Follow-up question is, would a pyramid be acceptable? Certainly. Again, question about how many submissions so far, approximately 140. We've always been told by experts in competitions that we're going to get the vast majority of our submittals very late. People have even told me during the last couple of hours. We're trying to avoid that, and that's why we've made this offer of doing quality assurance check on your submission as long as we get it by June 22nd. So I just would remind you, please do it by June 22nd or even sooner. If you do it sooner, you'll have even more time to make modifications after we communicate back to you if you've made any technical errors, which some people do and some people don't. Would you be open to the local community organizing on the site for, say, urban farming? Certainly, that would be a completely acceptable submission. We've always visualized structures of various kinds, but having farming as part of it, or having natural improvements to the natural world would certainly be possible too. So, trees, plants, farms, all would be acceptable. Going back up to my shared screen, before you apply, all applicants need to create a submittable account. This account will allow you to save, review your work. So I did a quick demonstration on that earlier. You saw how easy it was to copy and upload the components of your submission, and the components themselves are not complicated. One of them is only 100 words maximum, the other is 400 words maximum, and then the design presentation board is simply a couple of boards with images, including the sitemap image in any size you want on one of your boards. One of the participants says, thank you for the Adobe Creative Cloud. We actually gave away 50 one-year licenses to the Adobe Creative Cloud. That was done by our neighbor Adobe, which was extremely generous of them. So we've got 50 people who now have a year's worth of that cloud to use. We're hoping Adobe will give us some more of those. If they do, we'll use them again as an incentive to get people to finalize submissions. Can one edit one's submission after actually submitting? The answer is yes. After you submit, on the submittable platform, it will close your submission for editing, but all you have to do is ask us to open it again for editing, and you can do that as many times as you want. Part of the reason for that is once we've done our technical review, we want to close it, and then if we opened it and you edited it, that would be fine, but we would have to give it another technical review, and we're more than willing to do that. So don't feel shy about that if you do need further technical review. Going back up to my screen, you can see the jury if you go on our website. Again, the jury is a bunch of really experienced professional people from various fields. They include architects, artists, land use experts, landscape architect. Katya Urban is a representative of our local Sierra Club. We're very mindful of environmental respect on the site. We constantly remind all submitters of that. Also, Jody Starboard is the president of the board of directors of the Guadalupe River Park Conservancy. They are the stewards of the property. As Jody said in one of our outreach meetings, she said, I'm the environmental police. And so we've got the environmental police on the jury to make sure that everything we do respects the natural world as it should. Can we add images with text to the summary PDF section? Good question. I'm just about to post that on our FAQ. Images are not allowed in the text section. So in the project statement and project summary, you are not allowed to have images, only text. I think this question is referring to the jurors. Will they be together when they judge or each separately? That's a very timely question in these days of COVID. We very much want the jury to all be in San Jose. So we have invited all of them and they've accepted for the August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th to come to San Jose and meet. We'll take them on a site tour. They will already have reviewed all submittals. Again, to be clear, the community competition panel will recommend 50 designs to the jury, but the jury will look at all submittals. So if you submit, the jury will review your submission. Now, should this shelter in place go on for months, we don't know what we're going to do. In worst case scenario, we could certainly have the jury on a Zoom meeting, but that is certainly not what we'd like to do. There's great power in people being together in the same room as far as team building and feeling one another's energy. So we very much hope that our current health situation will be at least subsided by then so that they can all come to San Jose. How many days will the judges have to do their judging? 2. We will have an introductory dinner on a Sunday night so they can get to know one another, and then 2 full days will be spent by the jury. Part of the second day in the afternoon will be spent preparing for phase 2, because once the jury chooses those 3 finalists, then those 3 finalists will end up signing an agreement, which is the stipend agreement. They will get $150,000, and we will figure out how to help them through phase 2. So the jury, we very much want the jury to weigh in on what they would like us to do in phase 2 with those 3 finalists. What will the prize for the winner be besides fame? Really good question. The winning designer, assuming the designer stays with us all the way through construction, will have a huge piece of work, and you, the winner, will be paid properly for that, like best practices would always dictate. So this will end up being years of work for, or let's say a year of work for the winning designer. So that's, and you'll be paid for that. So in addition to the fame and having your name associated with something spectacular, you'll be paid for the work that you do in phase 3 and phase 4. Phase 3 would be the pre-construction phase. Phase 4 would be construction. Would you be open to having many examples of new technology having to do with sustainability happening throughout the gardens? Water, plants, biotech, etc., so people could find out and see technology in action? Absolutely. Those are all totally reasonable components to have in a submission. I'm going to go back up to our website. More questions come in, I will certainly answer them. But in the Urban Confluence website, if you spend an hour in this website, you'll know a tremendous amount about what we do. There are lots of videos to share with you. You can see our mission statement, testimonials from important people, list of our donors, in-kind donors, our board of directors, compliance documents, lots and lots of important information about the competition, the most important of which is the brief. where you should, this is the place you should begin your study if you haven't already done so. Read the brief. It takes 10 minutes or 15 minutes to read, and it's got lots of valuable information at a very high level about what it is we're trying to do. It also has some photos, and it'll, in a sense, give you the do's and the don'ts along with our vision for what it is that we're trying to do in this competition. Ultimately, this landmark that we build is going to be a gift to the citizens of the world. Specifically, we will give it as a gift to the city of San Jose, but it's in a public park, so this is open to anyone. And parks are an incredibly important part of life. They're, in a sense, a great equalizer. Regardless of whether someone has lots of money or no money, they can equally enjoy parks. Here in the brief, it walks you through the various steps that you need to take, design objectives, phases of the competition, jury again, eligibility issues if you're related to someone that's part of the competition, the anonymity requirement. Again, you can see a visual of the park. The reason we're called Urban Confluence is that there's a river and a creek that meet in the park at a place called Confluence Point. The environmental considerations are dealt with. Another question from a submitter: all images of the artist's works that relate to the proposal then must be on the board? ? I see you do not include a section for past and present ongoing works by the artist. That is correct. All of the part that's submitted, everything that's seen by the jury and the community competition panel has to remain completely anonymous. So the only places that you could mention past works if you wanted to would be in the bio section. And again, that bio section will not be seen by the community competition panel and the jury. For the design presentation board PDF, is it okay if we call it design presentation boards.pdf with boards plural? No, we want those file names to be precisely what we're calling them in Submittable. Might seem a bit fussy, but if you think that we might end up with 500 to 1,000 submittals, we want to make everything consistent and not give any specific submitter any advantage or disadvantage over any other. So the files need to be named exactly the way that we suggest in the Submittable platform. Here's a few additional considerations having to do with the site. And then we walk you through how to submit, which is really identical to what I just went over with you a few minutes ago. Here's some additional information for you. And then we just ask you to submit. The reason we have pictures of some of these great icons of the world is that this is the level that we're trying to exist on. We want to build something spectacular. We've always thought it's an amazing anomaly that Silicon Valley, possibly the richest place in the history of the world, doesn't have any kind of a physical recognizable icon, and we're trying to fix that. Do we have to use the sitemap image provided by Submittable? I would rather use a different sitemap background. Very good question. This is answered in the FAQ, but yes, you do have to use the sitemap image that's on Submittable, but you can also add another sitemap image on your design presentation board that you create yourself. Just a reminder, the sitemap image that we provide that you have to put on your design presentation board can be any size you want. So it can be really tiny if you're only trying to illustrate with that the location of your design on the site. It could be a very simple representation. And if you've got a better sitemap image that expresses more information, you're welcome to do that. And it can be as large or as small as you want on the design presentation board. I'm not receiving any more questions at this point, so if none come in the next minute or so, then I'm going to thank you and move on. But here's another question. Is the final PDF boards 300 pixels per square inch instead of 600 pixels? Is that a major problem? Just make sure you follow the precise instructions that are in the directions. So you are not allowed to deviate from those. So I hope that answers the question. Follow them precisely. If that doesn't make sense, please feel free to call me after this webinar. Do we need to provide dimensions of the structure or a representative scaled rendering works? Yes, we want to know dimensions of the structure. So, just remember that when you present, this is a grand idea that you're presenting, but ultimately the jury will need to know how big it is. So it should be dimensioned. Again, not necessarily like a plan set, but basic information should be very clear to the jury, so they're not asking us whether your design is 30 feet tall or 200 feet tall. I've heard you say, quote unquote, technical review. What does that entail? I can show you what that entails on screen. Just give me a moment. It's pretty obvious things that we put a lot of work into. This, again, this is all done to help you, not to challenge you. So these are the items that we are going to check. So as this says, technical review of submissions. Some of these I already mentioned, some of them I didn't. English language only, one design presentation board PDF, 2-inch empty squares, the required sitemap image, a project statement, a project summary. This answers a question that one of you just asked a few minutes ago. Precise file names must be used on all phase 1 revised submission requirements. Please use the imperial system, not the metric system. Remember, we are in the United States, and in California, they only accept the imperial system when we're doing our submissions at the city of San Jose and the county and the state. You also need to have a net zero strategy. I've had a number of questions about this. This can be as detailed as you like. You need to at least mention some strategy, even if it's a minimal, with minimal detail, but ultimately our project will be net zero. And so there'll have to be generation of power that matches the use of the power of your design. 1 submission per email address, as talked about earlier. Don't go smaller than 14-point type on your board, only because we want people to be able to read it. Just a reminder, we're going to print the ideas of the 50 recommended designs by the community competition panel. Those will be on 2-foot by 3-foot boards. And so when we do print those, we want to make sure that they're legible. This is one of the most important aspects. Again, anonymity is required in the following sections of your submission: project title, design presentation board, project statement, project summary, optional video rendering, again, optional, and sitemap image. These sections must not include any identification marks such as personal, company, or institutional names, logos, websites, links, or email addresses that would violate the anonymity of the submitters. So be very fastidious about that. But again, we'll be checking for this. So if you made a mistake, you'll get an email from me or from my assistant telling you that. Optional video renderings must not contain any links or any other information that violates anonymity. The designed areas must follow what is on the sitemap image. It'll be obvious when you look at that. There are 100-foot riparian setbacks on both sides of the river. Those are reflected on the sitemap image. So once you look at the sitemap image, it'll answer lots of these questions. There's a 200-foot height limit. No graphic images are allowed, as I just mentioned a minute or two ago, on the project statements and project summaries. And then, as I said a while ago, read the required resources for submitters. You'll learn a lot in a very short period of time, and it will really clarify what we're trying to do. And then here is just a reminder that when you read the brief, you will learn about all of the things that we want and that we don't want. And it'll help you not include things that are inappropriate there. How many 30-second videos can we include? The answer is 1. And just a point, I've had a number of people ask about exceeding the 30 seconds. You cannot. The 30 seconds is a hard stop. Will you inform the people who are selected as part of the 50 recommended designs to the jury? Definitely yes. We also are going to have all submissions available to the public. So shortly after the submission deadline on July 1st, as soon as we've vetted all of them to make sure that the submissions don't have any technical problems, we're going to post them all for people around the world to look at. So they'll be available to everyone. And then after our community competition panel meets and selects and recommends their 50, we will print those boards and have a public display of those boards. Again, unless we are still in shelter in place and we're not allowed to do that. Final call for questions. If any of you have them, please type them in. High level reminder, we're looking for great ideas. We do not have a maximum budget. We believe that we can raise whatever money it takes to do this, as long as the idea is spectacular enough. So don't be shy, go large, go big, go spectacular. How long after the jury assesses submissions in August will they contact the teams that get selected? Very good question. 3 finalists will be contacted very shortly after the jury, maybe the next day, in order to work out the stipend agreements, because it's important that each of those 3 finalists accepts all the terms that we have, and we need to accept all of their terms too. So that'll happen immediately after the jury chooses the 3 finalists. Will a recording of this webinar be made available? Yes, likely by tomorrow. How long is the jury assessment process? I already spoke to that, but they're going to be together for 2 full days. Shouldn't you have the community vote and maybe give the winner the popular vote? We talked about this. We've made the decision that rather than having the community decide on who the winner is, that this jury of professionals is more qualified to do that. And we, of course, are doing lots of outreach to the community now. We will continue to do so. Our community competition panel of approximately 30 or 40 members of the community will recommend their top 50. Everyone will be able to weigh in electronically and post notes, which will be seen by the CCP and the jury. So we've got lots of community involvement, but the community ultimately will not be the ones to select the winning design. That will be the jury. With that, I'm going to say thank you very much. I can't strongly enough state how much we appreciate your submissions, and also I want to restate my availability to help you. Please don't struggle with details. Instead, pick up the phone and call me. I will answer your questions, help you move forward, and try to make this a joyful experience instead of a struggle for you. So with that, I wish you well, and thank you very much for joining us today.